if you had to start a sneaker collection from scratch, but you only had $500 as the budget? Well, today I'm going to be going over the 5 sneakers that I would personally buy as part of this collection, and honestly, I think the only 5 sneakers you really need. A couple months back, I made a video titled The 5 Shoes That Everyone Should Own, and in that video, I outlined 5 different categories of sneakers that basically builds the perfect rotation. And if you owned a pair of sneakers in each of these categories, you would pretty much be set for anything. So before hopping into this, I think you need to know what the categories are. The first one is the active, and then we got the daily, the beater, the fancy, and the substitute. So if my entire sneaker collection, God forbid, burnt down and I had $500 to build a brand new one, what sneakers would I buy? Well, of course, let's kick this off with the active category. Now, by definition, this sneaker does lean into the active category, some more like running or gym style shoes. So if you go to the gym or you run, great, this is a perfect option. If you don't go to the gym, don't run, it's still a great option. We need a pair of these. It's a must-have if you're going to be standing on your feet all day or doing a lot of walking. This is going to be the model that you tend to go towards. It needs to be super comfortable. It needs to be kind of lightweight and easy to throw on and walk around in. And for this category, I actually have a couple different picks because I think there's a ton of shoes at an affordable price point that are really, really solid. So the first one in this category is going to be the Adidas Adistar 3. So this one you can find for about 80 to 90 pounds here in the UK. In dollars, it might be a little bit different. Depending on where you are in the world, it's going to be at slightly different price points. But generally speaking, the Adistar 3 is an ultra cushioned pair of shoes that is incredibly soft. Like, this foam literally just squishes. It feels like a dream. So I would opt for this model if you're really looking for like the most ultra comfortable pair of shoes that is in the active category. But hey, let's say you're someone who wanted something just a little bit less squishy but still in this active category. I would actually go for the Reebok Floatzig 1. I think this pair of shoes is a little bit more visually appealing, right? It looks a little bit cooler, and there's a bunch of different colorways that I think match really, really well. These are a little bit more expensive than the Adistar 3s. The cheapest I could find for this model was about $100. The actual cushioning that you get underfoot feels somewhat similar to Ultra Boost, or the Boost cushioning that Adidas uses. So if you've ever tried that, this is pretty comparable to that. But my last pick, and honestly I think the best overall option, is going to be the Nike Journey Run. This is also, in my opinion, the best looking option, probably the least polarizing as well, just because it's not as extreme as the Adistar 3s with all of that, ginormous amount of cushioning, or the Floatzigs look a little bit out there. They also find a perfect balance of being super soft and squishy underfoot, but not that soft like the Adistar 3s to where it kind of slows you down. You still got that bounce in your step. But here's the cool part, is that these are actually the cheapest ones out of all of them. I found pairs for as little as 54 pounds, which in dollars is like, I don't know, $60, $70. But even if you didn't find any steals on this pair of shoes, you couldn't find them on sale or anything like that, from Nike themselves, full retail price, it's only $90. And this is not like a pair of shoes that you pay that affordable price tag and you get them in hand and you're like, yeah, these feel like super cheap. They actually feel really solid quality. So yeah, the Nike Journey Run, definitely my number 1 pick for the active category. So let's hop into the next one, which is the hardest category. I had to take a very long time to think about this one, and that is the daily. This one's a little bit tougher because it's a pair of shoes that you are going to be wearing the most. By definition, it's a pair of shoes that you would wear every day. And to become the number 1 pick in the daily category, you gotta pass a few tests. The first one is, of course, they have to be super comfortable. They've got to be an easy slip on and go type shoe. I don't want to be fiddling around with laces for ages. They also got to be good quality. Of course, if you're going to be wearing them every day, putting some miles into them, you want them to stand up. And of course, you want them to look good and be like versatile with a bunch of different outfits. And I believe it is the Asics 1130, the best affordable option that really ticks all of these boxes. Now, this sneaker, the Asics 1130, retails for $95, which I think is pretty insane, especially for what you're getting. This pair of shoes reminds me a lot of one of my favorite everyday sneakers right now, the Asics Gel Kayano 14. It's just as comfortable, but this one comes in a plethora of different versions. So for example, this version feels like a little bit more premium. It's still like a mesh retro runner, but it has a bunch of suede and leather overlays. But you could also go with that classic retro runner look, which still has the mesh base, but then also has like metallic thick synthetic looking overlays. But whatever version you pick, whatever one you like the look of, this is definitely one of the best everyday options. I would have no issues wearing this thing day in, day out, putting miles into it, just like my Kayano 14s. I wear them all the time through a bunch of different occasions, and they've held up perfectly, and so does this one. All right, moving on to the next category, and that of course is the beater. Now, to be fair, this category does have a decent amount of crossover into the daily category, but this shoe definitely has to be a little bit more durable and something that you don't mind actually getting a little bit dirty and actually beating up. So if it's raining outside, or you know you're gonna go someplace like, I don't know, a hike in the woods or some freaking muddy terrain, you know you're gonna have the beater as your option to wear. In short, they need to be able to take a beating and still hold up, and I think the perfect option is the Nike City. So this is actually a brand new sneaker model from Nike that retails for just 90 pounds. Basically, to sum this pair of shoes up, it is literally the Tom Sachs general purpose shoe, just without Tom Sachs. So Nike describes this pair of shoes as an everyday option that is engineered to overcome whatever the city throws at you. So it's a very, very similar shoe, practically speaking, to the general purpose shoe that was also marketed as this kind of everyday shoe that you could beat up and it's gonna hold up for years to come. And not just in practicality, but visually, this is very, very similar, almost identical to the Tom Sachs shoes. They're surprisingly comfortable for what they are. They're super versatile and have this kind of waffle extended outsole, which is going to provide a lot of grip. So like I said, you can wear these to some of those muddier terrains or the woods hikes. I don't know what you guys are getting up to. They've also got this rubber midsole that kind of extends up onto the pair of shoes, almost acting like a rubber sidewall. So they're going to be very, very durable. So yeah, I think overall, this is a really solid pair of shoes for the price tag. And if you're someone who really liked the general purpose shoe, but obviously those are a lot harder to find nowadays, I think you're going to love these things. All right, so the next category is a little bit more subjective. It really depends on what your kind of style is, but I call this category the fancy. Now, this is probably going to be the category that you spend the most amount of money in. Now, if you're like me and you're the type of person that doesn't really go anywhere fancy, you're going to be picking sneakers for this. But if you're someone who actually dresses up and goes to nice places, well, I can't really help you with that. This is definitely a scenario where I'm the weakest in, but essentially you're going to want things like loafers, boots, or some kind of dress shoes. But again, for all of us losers who put sneakers above everything else, I've got a perfect pick, and that is the Nigel Sylvester Jordan 4 RM. Now, these retail for 145 pounds, and yes, even though they are like a hyped up collaboration sneaker, right now they are still in stock at plenty of different retailers. And even if you have a look at the aftermarket, some sizes of these things are selling for like under that. So it's pretty crazy. This is a hyped up pair of shoes that is still very attainable here in 2024. Now, I think if you're not a fan of this Nigel Sylvester collaboration or can't find it in your size for some reason, I think the Jordan 4 RM, even the GR versions, would still fill this category perfectly. Now, even though it obviously borrows a lot of the design elements from the Jordan 4, like the midsole, I think is the main thing, this is far more comfortable. They have like a much more padded ankle area, especially on some of those GR colorways. This Nigel Sylvester version is super premium. In fact, it's more premium than a lot of regular Jordan 4s. I think they've done a great job with the Jordan 4 RM, making it a really affordable but also great quality option. It's definitely a really good looking pair of shoes that you can dress up with a bunch of really cool streetwear inspired outfits. So yeah, Jordan 4 RM, definitely my number one pick for the affordable fancy category. Let's move on to the final category, which is the substitute. Now, the substitute category is kind of a pair of shoes that just kind of fits all of it. It can do anything. It just covers all of your bases. So pretty much just the most versatile pair of shoes. And I think the perfect option is the Yeezy Foam Runner. Now, depending on your lifestyle, you might want to lean in some of the other categories. Like you might need something that's just a little bit more active or a little bit more towards the daily side. But for the perfect all-rounder, I think the Yeezy Foam Runner for its price point is very hard to beat. It's insanely comfortable. It's a pair of shoes that, as you can tell, I have worn down a ton because I have worn these things through so many different occasions and situations. I have worn these on vacation. I have worn these as a daily sneaker, wearing them around running errands. I've worn them to the gym. Hell, I've even kind of dressed these things up before. And in terms of price point, you can find a pair of Yeezy Foam Runners for about 80 bucks right now. Some of the colorways slightly more, some of the other colorways slightly less. It's just because there's so much discounted Yeezy stock that's out there on the market. You can find so many different affordable colorways, so it's definitely worth having a look, and I think this is a really, really solid pair to have as your substitute. So altogether, this brand brand new sneaker collection that we got going on is roughly $500, which I think for what we got is pretty insane. 2024 is definitely a solid year for more affordable options. It seems like some of the price points have come down from like the time where everything was reselling. And if you look hard enough, like some of these recommendations that I've given you today, the quality on them is pretty insane for what you're getting. All of these 5 sneakers are not only really good options that I recommend to you, but also just shoes that I would add to my collection. Hopefully this helped you guys out, and if you've got any pairs that fit in your 5 categories, let me know down in the comment section. If you want to check out another video, all you gotta do is click that one right over there.